Welcome, thrill seekers. Halloween. It's the one night of the year when the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. A night meant for tricks, treats, and mischief. But sometimes a harmless prank can awaken something far more sinister. Something that won't be satisfied with laughter. Tonight, we delve into the darkness with 3 stories of Halloween pranks gone horribly wrong. What starts as a joke turns into a nightmare no one saw coming. So settle in, turn down the lights, and brace yourselves, because these pranksters just stepped into the realm of Mr. Scary Guy. Prepare yourself for a journey beyond the ordinary, into the shadows of your deepest fears. Welcome to the world of Mr. Scary Guy. I never thought a Halloween prank could go so wrong. It all started as a joke, just me, my best friends Eric and Jess, trying to make some noise and freak out the people in our small town. Everyone knew the stories about the old cornfield on the outskirts. Legend had it a farmer and his family disappeared out there in the 1800s, and their ghosts were said to haunt the place. Most people stayed away. But for us, it was perfect for our prank. Tom, the ringleader, came up with the idea. We'd camp out in the cornfield overnight, film some fake ghost sightings, and spread the footage around town. It sounded fun, spooky, but harmless. We were seniors, looking for one last thrill before graduation. We packed up our gear, grabbed a few cameras, and headed out. The night was perfect. Dark, with a storm rolling in. The wind was already picking up as we reached the field. Tall corn stalks swayed back and forth, and the moon cast a dim light over everything. I remember feeling a shiver run down my spine when I stepped into the field, but I shook it off. We were here to scare other people, not get scared ourselves. We set up camp at the edge of the field, right by the farmhouse that had long since fallen into disrepair. Eric and I laid out our sleeping bags while Jess fiddled with the camera, recording us as we cracked jokes and tried to psych each other out. But after a while, the laughter died down and we all just listened. The wind picked up, making the cornstalks rustle in a way that sounded almost like whispers. At first I thought it was in my head, but then Jess looked up, her face pale.
Did you guys hear that?
"It's just the wind," I said, though my voice came out shakier than I intended. Eric wasn't convinced either. His flashlight darted between the stalks, but there was nothing there. Still, something felt off. Around midnight, the real weirdness started. We were sitting by the tent, talking quietly, when I heard it. Soft footsteps coming from deeper in the field. I shot a look at Tom, hoping this was part of his plan, but he just shook his head.
"That wasn't me,"
he muttered, his bravado fading. Suddenly, one of the cornstalks near us bent unnaturally, snapping back with a force that made me jump. Jess screamed, and Eric swore, grabbing his flashlight and swinging it wildly, but there was nothing to see. Just rows and rows of corn stretching endlessly into the dark.
"We need to get out of here,"
Eric said, panic creeping into his voice. Jess was already backing away, her eyes wide. But before we could move, the whispers started again, louder this time, surrounding us. It sounded like voices, dozens of them, all angry, all speaking at once. My heart raced, and I grabbed Jess's hand, but the whispers kept getting louder, the cornstalks swaying as if something was moving toward us. And then I saw them, figures, shadowy and tall, darting between the rows. I couldn't make out their faces, just the shape of them. Too many to count. Too many to escape.
"Run!"
Tom yelled, but we were already sprinting. The field seemed to go on forever, no matter which direction we turned. The ground beneath us felt soft, like it was trying to pull us down. I heard Jess scream again and turned just in time to see her trip and fall. I reached for her, but as I did, the ground opened beneath her. It happened so fast. 1 second, she was there, and the next, she was being swallowed by the earth itself, her scream cutting off as the soil closed over her. "Jess!" I yelled, dropping to my knees and clawing at the dirt. but it was no use. She was gone. Tom grabbed my arm, pulling me up.
We have to go.
He screamed, but I was frozen. It wasn't until I heard the whispers again, louder and angrier than ever, that I finally moved. We ran blindly, not knowing if we were heading for the road or deeper into the field. The figures were still following us, their voices chasing us through the rows of corn. My legs burned, my lungs ached, but I couldn't stop. Not when they were so close. Finally, we burst out of the field and onto the road, collapsing onto the pavement, gasping for air. I looked back, expecting the shadows to follow, but the cornfield stood still, silent and empty, as if nothing had ever happened. We never found Jess. When the cops came, they said she must have fallen into some old well or something, but I knew better. We all did. Something out there in that cornfield took her. Tom and I haven't spoken about that night since. I don't think we ever will, but I still hear the whispers sometimes when the wind picks up. And I know, whatever was in that field, it's still there. Waiting. I'll never forget the moment I agreed to that prank. Looking back, it feels like the exact moment when everything went wrong. Olivia, Sam, and I had always been the pranksters of the school, and Halloween was our time to shine. This year, we were going all out, staging a haunting at the old Matheson mansion. Everyone knew the story. Old Mr. Matheson had gone mad after his family disappeared, and the house had been abandoned ever since. It was the perfect place to pull off the prank of the century. Fake ghost sightings, eerie noises, the works. It would scare the hell out of anyone dumb enough to believe in ghosts. That was the plan, anyway. We broke into the mansion late Halloween night, and the place was everything we hoped it would be. Dark, decrepit, and creepy as hell. Sam, always the tech guy, started setting up hidden cameras in the living room, while Olivia and I headed upstairs to the attic. That's where we were going to stage the big event, a fake seance to summon the spirits of the Matheson family. Classic stuff, right? The attic was huge, filled with dust and old junk. We set up the candles in a circle, and I could feel the excitement buzzing through me. "This is going to be epic," I said to Olivia, grinning. But Olivia didn't seem as thrilled.
Yeah, sure.
She muttered, glancing around nervously. I brushed it off, figuring the creepy vibe was just getting to her. That's when things started to get weird. We'd only just finished setting up when the temperature dropped. Suddenly, like we'd walked into a freezer. I could see my breath in the air, and Olivia stopped dead, looking around.
Did you feel that?
She whispered. I nodded, trying to shake off the cold creeping up my spine. It's just the draft, I lied. But it wasn't just the draft. I knew that the moment I heard it. A soft whisper, barely audible, but unmistakable. It wasn't part of the prank. Olivia and I exchanged a glance, and for the first time that night, I started to feel uneasy. Downstairs, we heard Sam yell,
"Guys, hurry up."
His voice sounded weird, almost panicked.
I'll go check on him.
Olivia said, her voice shaking a little. I stayed in the attic, trying to finish setting things up. But the more I worked, the worse the whispers got. Louder, angrier. They echoed off the walls, filling the room with voices I didn't understand. My heart started to race as the shadows in the corners of the attic seemed to move, shifting in ways that didn't make sense. I spun around, flashlight in hand, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. That's when I saw her. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, some old dress form or mannequin. But it wasn't. It was a woman, her face pale and hollow-eyed, standing in the middle of the room, staring right at me. Olivia? I called, my voice barely above a whisper. But the woman didn't move. She just kept staring, her mouth moving soundlessly. I backed up, trying to keep my eyes on her, but when I turned to the door, it slammed shut. Panic hit me hard, and I pounded on the wood, yelling for Sam and Olivia, but no one answered. The whispers grew louder, filling my ears until I thought I'd go mad. The woman started to move toward me, her feet barely touching the ground. I scrambled back, tripping over the candles and sending them scattering across the floor. "Help me!" I screamed, but I knew no one could hear me. Suddenly, the attic door burst open, and Sam stood there, his face pale as a sheet. He grabbed my arm and yanked me out of the room.
We have to get out of here.
He yelled. We bolted down the stairs, but Olivia was gone. We searched every room in the mansion, shouting her name, but she had vanished. The whispers followed us the whole time, growing louder with each passing minute. By the time we reached the front door, I was shaking so badly I could barely hold on to the doorknob. We ran out of the house into the cold night air, gasping for breath. But Olivia never came out. The police never found her. No one did. They said she probably ran off, that maybe she'd gotten scared and left us behind. But I know the truth. The ghost in the attic took her. And I'll never set foot in that house again. It was supposed to be just another Halloween festival at the Stillwater pumpkin patch. I'd been going every year since I was a kid, but this time, me and my friends, Mason and Tyler, were in charge of scaring people. They'd added a new attraction to the patch this year. A real-life scare zone, where actors like us would dress up as monsters and hide in the pumpkins, waiting to jump out at people. Sounded simple enough, right? We got our costumes. Mason was a zombie, Tyler a werewolf, and I was a witch, and headed out to our spots in the field. The wind had picked up, and the sky looked like it might storm, but we didn't care. It just added to the atmosphere. At first, everything went great. We scared a bunch of kids, made a few of the older teens jump. It was all going according to plan. But then, around midnight, things started to change. I was hiding behind this huge pumpkin, waiting for my next victim, when I noticed something weird. The pumpkin next to me was moving. Not rolling, not shifting in the wind, moving like something was pushing it from underneath. My heart skipped a beat. "Tyler?" I whispered, thinking he was trying to mess with me. But he was way across the field, howling at some group of teenagers. There was no one near me. I stepped back, eyes wide, as the pumpkin inched closer. Then another one moved, and another. Soon, the whole patch was shifting, the vines writhing like snakes in the dirt. I couldn't breathe. "Guys?" I called out, but my voice sounded small, swallowed by the wind. Mason must have heard me, because he came running over. But by the time he got there, the whole patch was alive. Pumpkins rose off the ground, hovering in the air like they were being lifted by invisible hands. Vines curled around our legs, tripping us as we tried to run.
What the hell is going on?
Mason yelled, but I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that we needed to get out of there. Fast. That's when I saw it, the figure standing at the center of the patch. Tall, with a glowing pumpkin for a head. It didn't move, just watched us as the storm clouds swirled above, lightning flashing in the distance. Tyler came running over, his face pale.
We need to go. Now.
We ran, but the vines were everywhere, wrapping around our ankles, pulling us down. I fell face first into the dirt, struggling to free myself as the pumpkins closed in. The last thing I remember is looking up at that figure, its glowing eyes locked on me. The next morning, the festival was still in full swing. But Mason, Tyler, and I were nowhere to be found. Only our costumes were left behind, scattered in the pumpkin patch. Now every year people say they hear voices in the patch, whispers, calling for help. But no one dares stay after dark. And they shouldn't. Well, my friends, that brings us to the end of tonight's terrifying tales. Halloween pranks. Always good for a scare, right? But remember, sometimes the scare can go a little too far or awaken something best left sleeping. As you head out into the night, just remember, not all pranks end with laughter. Sometimes they end with screams. This is Mr. Scary Guy signing off, wishing you all a safe and terrifying Halloween. Good night, and sleep tight if you dare. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe by clicking the icon above. We've also got a playlist full of scary stories on your left side, and a suggested video you'll love on the right. Choose one, and keep the scares going.